Think you could never be vegan? You're in the right place. If you think there's something big you'd really like to do, but it's probably too late, you're in the right place. My name's Michelle Olander. I think there's never been a more important time for you to move in a vegan direction. So I'm here every week to cheer you on as you veg your best. Episode 194, No One Wants You to Go Vegan. Welcome, my Veg Your Bestie. Welcome. Is that too familiar for you, Veg Your Bestie? I've been meaning to ask about that because if you're new here or maybe you just don't identify as my Veg Your Bestie, I get it. But maybe you are still interested in what it means to veg your best or what I even mean by veg your best. Because, as neutral as veg your best might sound, it's not always without controversy, and it happens regularly, I'm afraid, that I am put in the position of having to wish someone love and block them on social media, or occasionally just block them, and once in a while block and report. Just one of the occasional side effects of lifting your vegan head above the parapet and going public. And this came up today because friend of the pod, the luminous Ellen Canner, Ellen was on episode 87, almost exactly 2 years ago. Ellen Canner mentioned something about this in her Substack article called Hate Knows Where You Live. Well, as a longtime public person and writer about food and the reasons to make vegan choices, Ellen Canner said in the article that she has periodically received hateful comments and hate-filled messages. And in her, would you say ethereal way, she wonders aloud if maybe slinging nasties at her kept some of those folks from doing something even worse. Maybe. But lately, she says, things have been getting worse. It's a great article. It's beautifully written over on Substack, where I've been threatening to share some of my own writing, but with so many great things to read over there, like Ellen Canner's Substack, which is called Broccoli Rising. I'm often more intimidated than inspired, but at least you should get over there on Substack. You can follow all the cool kids like Ellen and Broccoli Rising, at least the free version. And the free version, that's the amuse-bouche. You get it for free. Still delicious, still worth it. And I shared the article with a bunch of my friends earlier today, and I told them that I feel like Ellen writes with a smile in her voice, even when she's sharing some of the darker themes. You read her words, and for sure, you want her in your corner of the universe. And that's because I think there's something about words. There's something about words that can really help us. Words help humans shape the reality that we are actually in. With our words, we empathize. We create what really matters as well as what really doesn't. And we can discount and marginalize things too with careless words. So far, I think they say written language appears to be the sole purview of humans, whether those words are spoken or written or sung or graffitied, and whether those words are profound or silly or boring or spiritual, whether they're curses or incantations, whether they're filled with love or trivia or disdain. I know in my work that words have a tendency to be self-reinforcing. What we think and what we say, we tend to continue to think, and we continue to say on and on. So it's really important, not just in coaching, but in every life, it's important to interrogate the things we're thinking and the things we're saying and how we're saying them. To notice to notice what spells we're casting with our words and our thoughts, because they really do tend to ripple into our actions and into our world. Did I just go all woo-woo on you? If you call yourself a reader, though, I think it's because you have at some point been under the spell of someone's words. As a young geek, a very young geek, Alexander Pope was one of my very early geeky enthusiasms. So go ahead, look him up on Wikipedia if you don't know him. Alexander Pope, one of my favorites. And one of my favorites of his sayings was true wit. True wit is nature to advantage dressed, which oft was thought, but ne'er so well expressed. I always loved that. We've all been blindsided by someone somewhere who said something that made us really see in a different way what's right in front of us. But we never really had the words for them. Whether it's Shakespeare or Tolstoy, whether it's Eminem or T. Swift or Mary Oliver, or my deep dive this past month into writer Anne Lamott. You know, people who've been around for a while pop up once in a while, right? They pop up in our attention span. And I was listening to her a lot lately because 3 separate people mentioned her to me for completely different reasons in the past month. And I had read a lot of Anne Lamott's work quite a while ago, and I hadn't thought much about her recently. So I had a long drive coming up. Some of you know about it. I had a long drive coming up by myself from Florida to Rhode Island. So I downloaded a few things, especially some interviews with her. And one of the things I heard her say in a couple of interviews was, no one cares if you write. No one cares if you write. So you have to. You have to care about it. And that hit me. That hit me very hard because for so many of us, the thing that keeps us from doing things, the thing that keeps us from doing things we say we want to do, the things we believe we want to do, what stands between us and changes we think we could make is wondering what others will think or say, whether others will like it or disapprove of it. And it's such a very good reminder from Anne Lamott. No one cares if you write. So you have to care. As a writing teacher, she writes how to write. Okay, here's how to write. Want to. Stop not writing. Sit down and think of one story you might be able to tell badly. Take a stab at it. Blurt it out on paper. Go back. Take out the boring and show-offy parts. Don't give up on it. Listen for what it's trying to tell you. It knows things. So I would like, with apologies to Anne Lamott, tell you that this is exactly what you need to know about going vegan or any other important thing in your life. Because no one cares. In fact, it's quite possible that no one in your real life even wants you to move in a vegan direction. I hear from people almost every day who tell me that. No one cares. You have to care if you're going to learn to live a vegan or a plant-based life. So, how to go vegan? Let's piggyback on Anne Lamott's advice for writers. The first step to go vegan is just want to. And then the second step is stop not being vegan so much. Stop not always choosing non-vegan things, or at least notice when you're not choosing vegan choices. Sit down. Think of one thing you could do or choose or change that might limit your consumption of animal products, and just do it badly. Take a stab at it. Now, maybe go back and try to make it a little simpler or a little less awkward, or maybe even a less a bit less show-offy. And then don't give up on it. Don't give up on it even when it doesn't work. Listen from what didn't work. Listen for what those choices are trying to tell you, because they know things. What did I learn by vegging my best in the beginning, especially in the beginning when I was more of what I've always called an excusitarian? What did I learn by the fails and the hard choices and the unclear solutions and the new purchases and the awkward explanations? When it didn't work well, I learned a lot. Even when it didn't work well, I learned how much of our society runs on animal cruelty. Animal cruelty that masquerades as happy animals in sun-dappled pastures. Most of us couldn't even begin to afford the meat, the dairy, the leather, the skins that would come from hunted or hand-raised animals in green pastures. All that ubiquitous meat, cheese, eggs, leather, that comes from animals raised, as you know, in industrial feeding lots, which almost no one, you or I, know, could stomach to be involved with. So if you're beginning your vegan journey, if you're beginning your plant-based practice, you will most likely find it challenging sometimes, because the easy choices are based on an enormous industry that's humming along almost invisibly until you start looking for it, until you start looking at it. And the good news is you can opt out of most of it very happily, very healthfully. In fact, you can opt out of it pretty easily, but you can't expect that a lot of people are going to thank you for it. You can't expect that a lot of people will care. Because as Anne Lamott says, nobody cares if you're right, and nobody cares if you're vegan, so you have to care. You have to do it for you. You have to think of yourself as someone who practices a vegan or a plant-based lifestyle, because there's no perfect writer or writing life. It's just a practice of taking it seriously, caring about it, learning what works and what doesn't, and building it day by day. And there's no perfect vegan life. It's just a practice of taking it seriously, of caring, of learning what works and what doesn't, and building it day by day. So that's what I mean by Veg Your Best. And even if you don't identify as one of my Veg Your Besties, I want to remind you that no one else is living your life in your space, so I will never tell you how it has to look where you live. But I do want you to know, what I really hope you'll notice, is that when it's hard, it's not because living a vegan life is beyond your ability, or that it requires more discipline than you have, or that it's too late for you now that you're 45 or 55, or you've already raised your kids. What I really hope that you notice when it's not easy to find a vegan choice or to make a vegan choice is that it's because no one else cares if you're vegan. The default system is not vegan. The default system runs on billions and billions of animals being treated with what I think all of us would consider unimaginable cruelty. No one else cares if you're vegan, so you have to care enough for you. And in fact, a lot of people don't even want you to try being vegan. So you're the one that's going to have to want to try. So that's what I do. That's what I do. That's why I'm here. I remind you that you can do it. And you can do it without anyone else agreeing. You can do it without anybody else wanting it for you. And honestly, if you can move in a vegan or plant-based direction in this world, you are going to grow muscles and resolve that will help you do many, many, many other things that matter only to you. That's something I can help you with. So do reach out. Do please share this podcast, these words, with someone else who might need it or want it or need some encouragement. So in the meantime, this week, think of one thing you can do to veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.